This video is a reminder that we need to be really careful when we're using data, basically to check the quality of it, make sure we understand what data we're looking at, ask questions like, does this look right? And basically explore and think. Now to do that, we're going to use a data set of crime in Los Angeles. I've pulled the web page in here where I got the data, and the link for this is in the description if you want to follow. It does have a lot of data in it. It's about 1 million rows. I've already exported it. We'll leave that web page open and we'll come back to it in a second. So the file is from the Los Angeles Police Department and it's a CSV file. I've already downloaded it to my computer and I'm going to add it via the delimited text option here. And as you can see, I've already searched for it via the browse button. It's a CSV file, but it's got longitude and latitude in it. So I can map that. And if you want to do this yourself, then just make sure the options match what I've got here. Geometry CRS is this one, EPSG 4326. So I'm going to click on add. And it'll take a moment because, like I said, there are about 1 million rows of data. Okay, I'm going to hit close now. And when it's loading up, what we see is lots of points getting added, but some are way on the left and some are on the right. What I would usually do at this stage is just add a basic world layer to see where these points are. The easiest way to do that is to go to the coordinate box at the bottom of QGIS, delete the numbers in it, type world in lowercase text, and then hit enter. And we'll get a world map. Now, I'll drag that layer in the layers panel below the crime data. And straight away I can see that we've got some data off the west coast of Africa. And if you've ever used any GIS data, you'll know that that's 0.00 in the world. So 0 degrees north, 0 degrees east. That typically happens when the coordinates are missing, because clearly that's not Los Angeles. So I'm going to zoom into the Los Angeles area here. This is the city of Los Angeles, so this is why it's got a strange shape. The city boundaries don't include everywhere in the LA metropolitan area. So what's happening now is the points are loading up, and if I expand the layers panel, I can see the name of the file there. If I right click it and choose show feature count, then I instantly have a number showing me how many features, how many points there are in the data set. And I usually always do this with new data just to give me a sense of what I've got. So there's just over 1 million points there. So that's fine. But before I do anything with it, I want to make sure I know what I'm actually working with. So for that, I'll go back to the web page and I'll read it. And that's one of the simplest things you can do. It's just understanding the data that you're working with. So this is a data set on crime from 2020 to present, and that takes us up to the 29th of October 2025. So basically, reading the metadata, if you have it, is really useful. And if I scroll down, I can see in terms of licensing, it's got a Creative Commons license, and that means I can reuse this data and I can reuse it in any context, commercial or otherwise. It tells us there's 1 million rows and 28 columns. Each row is a crime incident. So that's really useful. And if I was to look at the columns of my data set, I would see there's a number of headings, but they're not immediately obvious what they are. So thankfully, they've provided a description of what the columns mean and also what type of data it is. So for example, CRMCD indicates the crime committed. And then CRMCD desk is a description of the crime committed. And there's things like victim's age and so on. And if I go back up here, is there any information about the geographic coordinates? So I'll click on read more on these. Okay. I can see that, and then I can see at the bottom there's actually more rows. So I'll go to the next page, or I could choose 50. This might be a bit tedious, but it's really worth doing. We've got information latitude, longitude, and so on. So sometimes with crime data, we have slightly displaced coordinates to preserve anonymity. So it says here, this data set reflects incidents of crime in the city of Los Angeles back to 2020. Some location fields with missing data are noted as 00, so that explains the stuff off the west coast of Africa. Address fields are only provided to the nearest 100 block in order to maintain privacy. So that basically means we need to be a little bit cautious with respect to exact locations. So it's really boring, but it's really important to understand the data. So let's move that out of the way. Then what I would usually do is I'd maybe filter it using the filter tool. So I'll highlight the layer, I'll right click it, and I'll go to filter. So in this case, we know what the columns mean. So crime code description, I'll double click that, equals, and I'll click on all. And then it may take a moment depending on how fast your computer is, but this is going to list all the possible values in the crime code description column. And as you can see, there's quite a lot. But let's type in criminal homicide. Double click that. So we're looking for all those cases of criminal homicide. I'll click OK. And again, because we've got a large data set, it'll take a moment or two to filter it. All right, so here's the map of homicides, and in the count number in the layer, we've got 1,568. Let's maybe go back to the filter. I can just click this little funnel icon. Let's combine it with something else. So criminal homicides is what we've got, but let's combine it with age. And so I've clicked and vict age, so that's victim age, is greater than 70. So we're trying to find now criminal homicides where the victim age is greater than 70. And again, this is just the kind of thing I might do with a new data set, just to explore it and get a sense of what it looks like. So in this case, we have 35. Okay, so that's fine. And let's just look at the ones that we know are not in the right place because they didn't have a location recorded. Actually, tell you what, before we do that, we've got 35 rows, so let's just click on the table. I'll open attribute table. You can right click here and choose open attribute table as well. And it's going to open up the table. It might take a moment or two again, and we have got a lot of data that we're filtering here. So we can see the information, time it occurred, we can see the area, we can see all sorts of other stuff, and we can see victim's age. So if I sort by, I'll click on the header, victim sex, we can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 recorded homicides of females over 70. The rest were male. And we can see the weapon description as well. So it's useful to do this kind of thing just to get a sense of what the data contains. I might do something else, like we've got age, so if I click on the filter button again, if I just filter it that victim age is over 100, just to see what we've got, and I'll click OK. So in this case, it looks like we've just got one record, and I'll open the table for it, and let's see what it says. Now, sometimes with this kind of thing, you think, well, it could be there's a victim over 100, but maybe it's an error. But let's take a little look. So this is recorded as an assault with a deadly weapon in West LA on a victim who was 120. Now, given that we've got semi-automatic pistol here, and very few humans in the history of humanity, as far as we know, have lived to 120, this might be an error. So that's the kind of thing it's useful to look at just when you're asking questions like, is this correct? The next thing we're going to do is, this is all part of looking under the hood of the data set when you get it. Explore it and understand it before you map it, basically. Let's click on the little funnel icon. And this time what we're going to do is I'm going to filter it for all locations where latitude equals 0 and longitude equals 0. So those locations where we didn't have a latitude and longitude because it wasn't recorded. I'll click OK and it'll filter the data set. Now that I've filtered it, we can see there's 2,240 out of about 1 million with no location. I can right click on that. So I'm right clicking on the name of the layer and I'm going to zoom to layer now because I'm zooming into the area off the west coast of Africa where 00 is. Okay. And we can safely assume we know that's just because they don't have any location data. It's not because, for example, the Crips and the Bloods are having gang warfare in the Atlantic Ocean off the west coast of Africa. So sometimes you can spot these mistakes really easily. Sometimes it's omission. Sometimes it's other reasons. In this case, of course, we don't have the location. So we'd want to exclude those from an analysis if we were doing some GIS and geographic data analysis. So for right now, what we'll do is I'll use the same filter, but I'll put a not before it, and I'll just put the query I put in before in brackets. So that should get rid of those. If I click OK, then let's just wait till that filter actually works. Okay, those have disappeared. Now if I click on zoom to layer now with them gone, it zooms to Los Angeles. Okay, so that's all very well. Let's just do a couple of other things to play around with the data. Now we understand what's in it. Now we understand the missing values for latitude and longitude. We've got just over 1 million, so we've got 1,002,751 data points. Let's filter this. So we've got a filter which ensures nothing with a latitude of 0 and a longitude of 0 is included. I'm going to put and after that, and we're going to use the weapon description column. So we're going to look at everywhere where, say, guns were involved. So I'll double click on weapon desk, so that's the column weapon description. I'll click equals and then I'll hit all. So again, this is going to list all the possible values in the weapon description column. So we've got antique firearm, we've got axe, sounds pretty bad, blackjack, blunt instrument, bomb threat, all the different things. Some of them are more specific than others. So I'll tell you what we'll do here. We've got Uzi, we've got other things, but we've got everything's either got automatic or semi-automatic in it. If I want to include a filter so that it picks up everything that's got the word automatic in it, here's what I'll do. I'll use like, and then I'll put in a single quote, a %, and I'll type the word automatic. And I'll put a % after it and a single quote. Now, what that's going to do is going to look for the text automatic anywhere within the description. And if I click on OK, let's see what happens. I think the reason we have like and I like is one of them is not case sensitive and one of them is, but it depends what data format you're using. I think with a CSV, we should be okay using like. So I've typed it in lowercase text there, but it's capitals here. But this should work. Let's click OK and see what happens. Okay, again, sometimes we make mistakes. Let's click on the filter again because I think in this case I need to use I like because it must be case sensitive with a CSV. So I'll click on OK and let's see if this works. Okay, well, I suppose that was a useful demonstration of the difference between like and I like. You will find with some data formats, it doesn't matter, things are not case sensitive, but obviously with a CSV it is. So these are all the incidents, 7,481 that involve a weapon that has got automatic in the title. And if you just wanted to export these, and you could right click and export and save those features as, for example, a new layer, shapefile or a geo package. So it's quite a lot here. I'll tell you what we'll do. Finally, we will double click on this layer. We'll go to symbology. We'll change it from single symbol to heat map. We'll change the color ramp from the default black to white to, this is a bit wild, the turbo one, but I'm going to use it for now. The radius is going to be 10 millimeter. Let's leave everything on the default. So I'll click OK. It'll take a moment or two to draw that. And while that's happening, I'm going to turn off world map. I don't have my browser panel, which shows me the different map layers I can add. In Windows, I can hit Control-2 to make it appear. You can also go to View, Panels, and Browser Panel. The reason I'm turning on the browser panel is because if you go to XYZ tiles, you may only see one layer here. I've added other ones. I'm going to drag and drop OpenStreetMap in. Let's take, we put the crime on top. OpenStreetMap. The last thing we're going to do is, I'll turn off the crime data for a second. If you add OpenStreetMap layer and you want it to look sharp in its native image resolution, then you'll have to change the coordinate reference system, clicking on the EPSG button in the bottom right. Then the one you want to use is code 3857. I've recently used it, so it's here for me already. If you don't see that, just type in 3857 here, and you'll see it listed, and you can select it and click OK. And now I'm going to turn on crime data on top. Let's zoom in a little bit more. It's just redrawing that. It'll take a moment. If you're trying this on your own computer to follow along, it may be a bit slow. You can always use a smaller subsample of the data as well if you want to. Okay, there's the data back on screen. I'm just going to double click the top layer, and we're going to go and change the opacity. So if you don't see that, it's in layer rendering. Let's change it to 60% and click OK. Again, it'll take a moment or two to redraw. There we go. So what do we see there? We see the highest values along certain transport corridors. And finally, let's just open the attribute table. Always useful to look at that and explore the actual data that we see on the map. There we go. So we have all the weapons: semi-automatic pistol, Heckler & Koch 93 semi-automatic. So quite a lot of crimes with weapons. We could look at the victim age, the victim sex, and so on. Sometimes we don't see it recorded. We also see premises description, hotel, alley, street, and so on. Okay, close that. So basically the message, to recap, is when you're downloading any data, read the information about it. Make sure you read the metadata, which is essentially information about your data. Have a look under the hood, explore the attribute table, play around with filtering data, try and see if there's any weirdness or any errors in it. Ask yourself the fundamental question, does this look right? And basically explore and think and use your faculties as a human being before you dive in and do any serious mapping. Okay, hopefully you found that useful, and also if you do want to explore that data, it is quite interesting and the link is in the description.